So we're gonna do the linear stuff. You ready? You got a calculator? The first, is all of this calculator? Okay, the first part of it is calculator inactive, and then the second part is calculator active, okay? All right. So let's do the first part. This is our EOC review number 1. Slide this down a little bit. So put EOC review 1. Okay, so the very first one says, the following questions are sample questions similar to that are found on the EOC exam. Answer each question to the very best of your ability. All right, so number 1, it says, Mrs. Roars has given her students a pattern of white towels. Okay, so listen, the towel that's in the center, and I do need to make this correction, because I forgot to do this. It didn't show up on the paper, but the towel in the center is actually black. So this is black. The towels in the center are black. And the towels on the outside are white. And that correction I did not make, so that's on me. I have to make sure I tell them that. All right, so now, we gotta figure out which equation represents the number of white towels in the pattern. Okay, so let's make a table for white towels, okay? So do you see how this is the first set, the second set, the third, and the fourth? Do you see that? So that's our X. And our Y is our output. So input, output, right? So the first, number 1, how many white towels are there? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good job. The second set, how many white towels are there? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good job. And the third set, how many are there? 16. And on the fourth, how many are there? 20. Okay? So do you understand so far how I've made a table? Does that make sense to you? Perfect. So now what you have to do is write an equation from this table. So when you write an equation from the table, you need to notice a couple things. How is it going up? Is it going up by adding or subtracting, which is linear? Or is it going up by multiplication, which is exponential, okay? And quadratic means it's either gonna go up and then back down, or down and then up. Do you see? So which pattern does this display? Is this displaying linear, where you're adding or subtracting, exponential, where you're multiplying, or quadratic, going up and then down, or down and then up? It's linear, okay? Are you adding or subtracting to get to the next number? You're gonna add. So my slope is going to be addition, it's gonna be a positive number. How much am I going up by every single time? I'm going up by 4, so slope is 4. Does that make sense? Okay. Now my y-intercept is gonna be my 0 number, not my first number. You notice how they give you the first number? The y-intercept is the 0 number, so I gotta work backwards to see what that number was. So what would be the number before the first number? That's the 0 number. What number is that? That's 4. Does that make sense how we got that? So in order to write the equation, it's going to be in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. What would be the equation for this? Mm-hmm. 4x plus 4, right? So what's the best answer here? C. Does that make sense to you? Okay. All right. Are you ready for number 2? Okay. Number 2, the chart shows, let me close the door so it's not loud. Number 2, the chart shows the amount of total salary, which is the commission plus the base salary. They put that in parentheses. Paid to employees of a store that specializes in big screen televisions. Okay. All right. So first thing that we need to do is to look at the increments that it's going up by. This is going up by 1s here. Do you see it? And this is going up by 50s here. Do you see that? So when you're writing, it's a straight line. So you already know the equation that needs to be in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. If it was a curved line, it's y is equal to a times b to the x power. And if it's a U-shape, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. Do you remember?
I don't remember the second one, but I remember the third.
Yep, this is the linear one. And the exponential one is this, where you have a times b to the x power, when x is the exponent, okay? This is exponential function, where the a is the starting amount and the b is the common ratio, okay? Okay, and we'll end up doing that later, okay? All right, okay, so we gotta figure out what the slope is, that's rise over run, and what the y-intercept is, where it crosses the y-axis. So let's find the slope first. No, let me finish reading. It says, which equation best describes the salary T, okay, which is our y, okay, this is T or y, that an employee sells any number of TVs in, which is on the x-axis, okay? All right, so let's figure out what our M is. Our M, rise over run, is how we're gonna find it because they give us a line. So we're gonna pick 2 points on the line. So I can pick this first, make it a little bigger, and the second, make it a little bigger. And I can count rise over run. So that's why it was super important for me to identify, if I go up, how many am I actually going up by? What's the increments? 50. So I went up 50, rise is 50. Does that make sense? Run, I go over, how many am I going over? 1. So my slope is positive 50. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have to look at the y-intercept. Where would it cross? So it would cross, if I continue the pattern, my rise over run pattern, my y-intercept would be right here. Do you see how that would be the pattern? So what is the starting amount, or my b, where x is equal to 0? What's my b? 100. Does that make sense? Okay, so now I'm looking for the equation. Which one of these would be the equation? A. Got it? Okay. You okay? Okay, so let's look at this one. A school purchases boxes of candy, and we got each box is 50 candy bars. Each costs $30. So we got 50 candy, well, one box has 50 candy bars in it, okay? And each box is 30, so you're basically getting 50 candy bars for $30. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, so how much does the school have to charge for each candy bar in order to get a profit of $10 per box? So let's figure out, first of all, how much each candy bar is going to cost. So in order to figure out how much each candy bar is going to cost, what do you have to do?
Oh, I just put in the calculator.
Well, tell me in your mind, logistically, how do I figure out how much each candy bar is going to cost?
Multiply the number by 50.
Okay, why would I do that? If there are, think about in my mind what this is saying. It says each box, one box has 50 bars in it. How much does that one box of 50 bars cost?
$30.
So I'm paying $30 for 50 of them. So how much is each of them?
How much is each of them?
Mm-hmm.
What's the price?
Mm-hmm. If I tell you that 2 pencils cost $10, how much is each pencil?
$5.
Okay, how did you figure that out?
10 divided by 10.
So how do I figure out how much each candy bar is going to cost?
50 divided by 30.
The other way around, because the total amount of money is the $30. Does that make sense what I just said? And it's $30 for 50 candy bars. So you know each candy bar is going to cost less than $1. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so are you sure that makes sense? So let's type in 30 divided by 50. What's 30 divided by 50?
46.
Okay, let me take it off scientific notation, put it back on normal. And let's let's do $30 divided by 50 candy bars, and that's 60 cents. So it's gonna be 60 cents. So if you charge only 60 cents for a candy bar, you're gonna break even. Does that make sense? So you gotta charge more than 60 cents. So what answers can I automatically eliminate?
A, B, and D.
I can eliminate A. Why A?
It's 20 cents less than.
Because you're not gonna get a profit. Why can you eliminate B?
Because you want to make a profit.
You're not gonna make a profit. Okay, it's possible if I charge 80 cents, I'm gonna make a profit, and if I charge $1.25, I'm gonna make a profit. Does that make sense? But I want to figure out. I want to only choose the one that's gonna give me a $10 profit. Okay, does that make sense? So I want my total to equal $10. So let's figure that out. So how much profit would I make for each candy bar if I sell it for 80 cents?
$10.
Well, yeah, $10. How do I figure that out?
I did 50 times 0.8 and calculated.
No, that's not going. You lucked up on that one. You lucked up on that one. You lucked up on that one. How much is each candy bar? Yeah, you lucked up on that one. How much does each candy bar cost? 60 cents, right? What's the profit for each candy bar if I sell it for 80 cents? 20 cents. Does that make sense? So 20 cents times how many candy bars total? 50. How much of a profit is that?
10.
That's 10. That's why it's that amount. Okay. If I do, that's why that's, does that, you see what I'm saying? Okay.
I just did like a shortcut way, not like the actual way.
You see it? Okay. All right. This would be way more than $10. All they want is the $10. Okay. All right. Let's do number 4. It says which equation is equivalent. When they say that, that means they want you to simplify it to see which one it's going to be equal to. Okay. So let's zoom in just a little bit. All right. So let's simplify. When we simplify, we use distributive property first. Does that make sense? So we have y, bring that down. We got 2 times x is positive 2x. We have 2 times 5 is 10. Bring down the equal, bring down the 4x plus 5. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You good? Okay. So you gotta get y by itself. So now let's move the x to the other side. So we're gonna subtract to move the x, right? Are you okay with that? Okay. So this is going to be y plus 10. It didn't matter which one you move first, actually, okay? That's 2x plus 5. Okay, so now in order to move or to get y by itself, what do you have to do now?
Subtract 10.
Subtract 10. So when you subtract 10, this is going to give you y is equal to what number?
2x plus 2x minus 5.
2x minus 5. Which answer choice is that?
C.
C. Okay. Are you okay with that? Okie dokie. Number 5. Number 5 says that Jesse's bus ride to school is, so let's write this out. Jesse, let's use the letter J for Jesse, okay? So we got Jesse, J, is, that's equal to. Are you okay with me writing it like that? And then it says is 5 minutes, so 5, more than, what operation is more?
Greater than.
What operation?
Addition.
Addition. So we got 5 plus, and it says 2/3 the time of Robert. If it's 2/3 of means multiplication. So that's 2/3 times whatever Robert is. Robert, we're gonna say is R. Does that make sense? Now, let me tell you this part. The letter that Jesse represents really is on the y-axis, so I can replace J with Y. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And Robert is along the x-axis, so I can replace Robert with X. Are you okay with that? Are you sure? Okay. All right. So let's look at this. It says which graph shows the possible time for Jesse and Robert's rides. Okay, so we already wrote the equation. So now we need, in order to graph it, we have to identify what M and B is. Which one of those numbers is the slope?
2/3.
2 over 3. That's rise over run, right? And which one is the y-intercept? 5. So that means that is where it crosses the y-axis. So if this is where we start and where it crosses the y-axis, what can we eliminate?
D.
You can eliminate D because this doesn't cross at 5. You can eliminate, you said A because this doesn't cross at 5. These two have to be the possible answer, right? So now let's count. Let's do rise over run. Rise is 2 and run is 3. So how are you going up on this one? It's going up by 5s, it looks like, right? So let's pick 2 points on the line. We got this point right here. And what's another good point that you can choose? 15 and 15, yeah, 15 and 15. So this one is kind of hard to count. You can still count rise over run, but you just got to make sure you do the increments right. So if when you count rise over run here, it's going up by what?
2.
This one? No. It's not going up by 2. Look at the increments. It's not going up.
You're talking about the increment?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's going up by 5.
So what's your top number? What's your rise? Because you have to do rise over run. So what's your rise?
10.
Your rise is 10. And what's your run? 15. Okay, so let's reduce 10 over 15. How do you reduce 10 over 15?
Divide both of them by 5.
Divide both the top and the bottom by 5. So when you divide the top by 5, what does that give you?
2.
2. When you divide the bottom by 5, what does that give you? 3. 2 over 3. Is that right?
Yeah.
That is the correct answer. Do you see why B is the correct answer? And then this one, the slope is not going to be the same. Okay? Does that make sense? The slope for this one is going to go up. Let's see. It's got to go up 5, 10, 15 on the top. And then over 5, 10. Do you see how it switches the order? This would be 3 over 2. And it's supposed to be 2 over 3. Make sense? Okay. Are you ready for the next day? Okay. So the back is going to be calculator active. Okay? So let's clear our calculator. And you know what? We should have multiplied this on our own. I forgot that it was calculated in active. I'm sorry. So 2 plus 7, 1, 2. I forgot all about that. But that's okay. We can multiply. Those were baby numbers anyway. We can multiply those. All right, so let's do number 6. It says Dennis compared the y-intercept, the starting amount of the graph. Remember, y-intercept is the starting amount of the graph. Here, y is equal, remember, f of x is the same as y. F of x is equal to 3x plus 5 to the y-intercept of the linear function in the below. So look, the y-intercept of this function is what? Which one of these numbers is the y-intercept or the b? 5 is. Are you good with that? Okay. So now let's look at the table. The only thing is you don't see where x is equal to 0 at all, do you? So you can't identify what the y-intercept is because you don't see where x is equal to 0. So 2 things you can do. You can type this in and do a linear regress and it will tell you what the equation is. Does that make sense? So let's do linear regress in the calculator so that we can write down what the equation is, y equals mx plus b, and that will tell us what the b is. You got it? So for linear regress, we press the stat button. Okay, fly this up just a little bit. So we got stat, then we press enter on edit, and we type in the ordered pairs. I'm gonna type in the x values first. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Let me know when you finish typing that in. All right, we type in the y. okay? So then after you type in the points, remember this is linear. So we go back to stat, and we go over to calc, and then we go down to which one of these? Lean reg, and press enter. Cause I don't have to put it in, I don't have to graph it or anything, so I can just press enter here. If I had to graph it, then remember I do that L1, L2, okay? All right, so this is my equation. Which one of these numbers is gonna be my y-intercept? The B is 5.5. So B here, so the equation is y is equal to 0.5 or 1/2 x plus 5.5. So B is the 5.5. So it's saying, all right, it's asking you for So you need me to call your phone? Okay. No, you're fine. You're okay. Nice. All right. So here. Sorry, baby. So sorry. All right. So it's saying, what is the difference? Difference is what operation? Subtraction. So what is the difference from the y-intercept of this? So this comes first, 5 comes first, because the f of x is the y-intercept is 5. It says it's subtracted from, sorry, it's the other way around, it's subtracted from. So we got 5.5 first. Do you see why it's the other way around? Because it says subtracted from. So we got 5.5 minus 5. What's 5.5 minus 5? 0.5, which is what letter? C. Make sense? Okay. All right, number 7. Okay. You good? Are you understanding so far? Okay. Number 7 says the boiling point of water, T, measured in degrees at an altitude A, okay, measured in feet. So T is the degrees, and A is how tall it is, and that's measured in feet. So we got this right here, the total degrees is equal to this equation right here, and this is a linear equation. All right, so now this is what it says. In terms of altitude and temperature, which statement describes the meaning of slope? Always remember this, slope is always going to be the meaning of y over the meaning of x, or the output over the input, okay? So the total amount, whatever the total is in the problem, versus whatever the input is of the problem, okay? So let's go back and read. Which one of these, because we're comparing the temperature and the altitude, which one would be on top? Which one would be the y? Would it be the temperature or the amplitude?
The altitude.
Okay, so here, look at it again. It's saying the boiling point T temperature, look at the equation. The equation is T sub A is equal to, what is this? I'm rewriting the equation, sorry. All right, okay, so look. When you write the equation, this is, huh?
Is there 1 or 2 zeros?
I don't know. It's 2 zeros. How many zeros is that? Let me see. Okay, 2. 1, 2. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. So this right here is y, right? This, and this right here is x, right? Do you see how another way to write that? Does that make sense what I just said? So what is the y in this problem? It's the T, because it's the, you see how this is T of A? That's the same as y. Okay, do you understand? All right, and then A is the amplitude. And when they give you the equation, the total, the dependent is y. Temperature is y. So degrees is on top, or temperature is on top, per altitude. Do you understand? Okay. So now it's asking for the slope. Okay, so it's asking for the slope. Which one of these numbers represents the slope? Which one is M in this equation?
The one beside A.
Yeah, that number right there, right? Okay, this is the tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place. It's the 10,000ths place. This is the slope. Got it so far? Okay, so now we gotta pick which one of these is the best answer, okay? We've identified the slope. And it's this many degrees per feet, or per height or altitude, okay? All right, so we gotta pick the good answer. It says the boiling point increases. Is it increasing? Is the slope a positive number?
No.
So which answer choices could we eliminate?
A and B.
Because it's decreasing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have to figure out, it says the boiling point decreases by 18 degrees. That means 18 is on top, right?
Yeah.
And as the altitude increases by 1,000, that means 1,000 is on the bottom. So it's 18 over 1,000. Does that make sense? So let's see, and it says decrease, so we know it's a negative. So let's type this in to see if that gives us this. Does that make sense? Okay, so type that in. We got negative 18 divided by 1,000. Okay, and that gives us just this. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's not enough. You got it? Okay. So we pray our answer is D unless we did something wrong, right? So let's do D. It says the boiling point decreases, so it's decreased, so it is a negative, okay? It got 1.8, okay, over, and remember, why, Ms. Reyes, does it say increase? Because X is always gonna increase, okay? So don't even worry about, you need to be looking at Y decreasing, because X is gonna increase regardless, okay? So it's decreasing, okay, by 1,000 feet. So we're gonna put 1,000 on the bottom again. Are you okay? You sure? Okay. So let's type this in to see what we get. It says decreasing, so that's negative. So we got a negative. All right, what did that give you? Did that give you that answer?
Yeah.
Yes, that's it right there. So the answer is D. Are you understanding why your answer here is D?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's do number 8. Are you free to go to the next one? It says Mario compared the slope of a function graph below to the slope of a linear function that has a y-intercept, x, an x-intercept of, okay, so if it's an x-intercept, that means it crosses the x-axis at 4, what's 4 over 3 as a decimal? 4 over 3 is a decimal, what? 4 divided by 3 is 1.3 repeated. Does that make sense? Just so we'll know that. I'm gonna still put 4 over 3. But just know it's between 1 and 2. It's closer to 1 than it is to 2. So this is where it crosses, okay? All right. With a y-intercept of -2. So that means this is the x-intercept. That means y-intercept, x is 0, and the y is -2. Do you see how I made 2 ordered pairs of that?
Yeah.
Okay, because this is the x-intercept, and this is the y-intercept. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're comparing the slope of this to the slope of the line, okay? And it says, what is the slope of the smaller one? So we're looking to see, is this slope smaller than this slope? So let's find the slope here first, and then find the slope here by doing rise over run. When you're comparing slope, you're only looking at the number. You're not gonna look at whether it's going up or down. So don't look at negative. Just focus on the number, okay? All right, okay. So let's find the slope of these two ordered pairs. So to find the slope, you use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? So let's look at this. This is x1, y1. This is the second point, x2, y2. Does that make sense? Okay. So now let's substitute. We're gonna substitute here. What are we gonna put on the top? What minus what here? -2 minus 0, good. And then what are we gonna put on the bottom?
0 minus 4/3.
Okay.
4 over 3.
4 over, wait a minute. Yeah, you're right. 0. Wait. Y2 is first, and then 0 is first here. Okay. All right, so on the top, what does that give us? -2 over. On the bottom, that gives us that -4 over 3, right? So let's type this in and see what we get. Okay, so type this in. So this is -2 divided by, let's put this in parentheses here. -4 divided by 3, close parentheses. You see how I did it? Does that make sense to you? So when we press enter there, that gives us 1.5. Make sense? So we got one. If we would have rounded earlier in the problem, we wouldn't have got that crisp 1.5 because we rounded it. So don't round it to the end, okay? So this slope is 1.5. So let's look at the slope of the line. So let's pick 2 points and count rise over run. So we gotta pick 2 good points. What's one good point that you can see on the line?
-2.
So -2. -2 is here and 1. Yeah, that's a good one. What's another one?
1 and 2.
We got 1 here and 2. Yeah, that's a good one too. All right, so now let's count rise over run. Let's count rise over run. All right, so from here to here, what's my rise? 1 on the top. And what about the run?
3.
1, 2, 3, 3. So which one has the higher slope? The points, the function, the first, well, compare it to the graph or the line. What's the slope of the line?
1.5.
The slope of the line? What's the slope of the line? We did rise over run for the slope of the line, right?
You said the slope of the line.
Yeah, which one's bigger? The slope, this slope over here?
That one.
Or, yeah, this slope is bigger. So, is it asking for the smaller one or the bigger? Oh, which number is the smallest? It's asking for the slope that's smaller.
Oh.
So you're right, it's which is what?
1 over 3.
1 over 3,
Which is B.
which is B, yeah. Are you okay with that? Okay. All right, so the table below shows the distance a car has traveled. All right, so minutes is X. That's time. Time is always X. The total traveled is Y. So if we're finding the slope, the meaning of Y is always going to be on the top. Y is on the top. Y2 minus Y1 is on top. X is going to be on the bottom. So the slope is always going to be, here, is going to be the distance. So it's miles or distance per minute. Does that make sense? You okay with that logic? All right, so that would always be the meaning of slope if you're ever trying to find the meaning of slope. So now it's asking us for the slope for this table. So we can, again, do linear regress in the calculator to figure out what the slope is. Got it? So let's go to the calculator. Let's do stat. Oh, let's clear it, because remember we had those points in there. If you don't clear it, then you can go all the way up to the top here and press clear, enter. You can go all the way up to the top, make sure this is highlighted, and you can press clear and enter. So if you don't want to reset your calculator or clear your calculator, you can go to the table and still clear all the values, okay? All right, so let's type in our X values. And then let's type our y values. Okay, you got them typed in? And then what do you go after that to do linear regress?
Stat,
Mhm.
cal,
Mhm.
reg.
Okay, and then just press enter, because you don't have to graph them. If I was graphing, or if I wanted to look at some table values, I'd have to do L1 comma L2 comma bars. Remember that? But I'm gonna press enter because all I want is the equation. So then my M here, which one of these numbers is my M? A, which is what number? 0.8. So now I have to decide, this is my M. Now I have to decide which one of these would be equivalent to 0.8. Does that make sense? So let's do it. Remember, Y is on the top, X is on the bottom. Y is on the top, X is on the bottom. Y is the miles, X is the minutes. So this one right here, what will go on top for A, what will go on the bottom? It says 5, it says the car travels 5 miles every minute. So that will be 5/1. Does that make sense? You okay with that? So 5/1 is just equal to 5. That's not right, is it? Okay. Does that make sense why A is not the answer? All right, B is saying 4 miles every minute. So that's 4/1. What's 4/1 equal to? 4. Does it make sense why B is not the answer? Okay. C is 4 miles every 5 minutes. Does that make sense right here? So what's 4 divided by, type in 4 divided by 5. What's 4 divided by 5?
0.8.
Does it make sense why that's the answer?
Yeah.
Okay, you get it? You have it written? Number 10. Okay, so number 10 says a cell phone company Y charges, so we're talking about the first company Y, charges $10 for a startup fee. So the first company, let's do first company. So we got company 1 or company, it says company Y, so let's just do company Y. That is going to be, write the equation. Your B for this company, your starting amount is 10. Does that make sense why I'm saying B is equal to 10?
Yeah.
Because that's the starting amount, right? And then it says plus the 10 cents per minute. Does it make sense that I'm saying that that's my slope? Because it's going to be 10 cents for every minute. So how do I write that as an equation?
Y is equal to 10 cents x plus 10.
Very good. Make sense? Okay. So now it's saying that company Z, so let's write company Z, okay? It's saying that company Z charges 20 cents per minute with no startup fee. So for company Z, what's my M and then what's my B? So what's my M for company Z?
20 cents.
It's 20 cents. And what's my B?
0.
It's 0. So to write this as an equation, what would that be? Plus 0 or just nothing at all. Are you okay with that? All right, so now it's saying which function represents the difference in cost. What is the operation that we're going to use to figure out the difference?
Subtraction.
So you're going to subtract these two functions from each other. This function minus this function. So let's subtract them. So when you do that, you got the first function is 10x plus 10. And you're going to subtract it from the second function, which is 20x, okay? So we can only combine terms that are alike, right? So which of the terms are alike? What can we subtract from each other?
10x.
Very good. So when we subtract, oh wait a minute, the difference between y and, okay, so y did come, did I put y first? Yes, I did. Y is first. Do you see why I put y first?
Yeah,
Because they said y first. So make sure you get the order right. Because remember before it says subtract it from and we had to do the second one first. This is saying the difference between the two. When they use the word difference, it's gonna be the first one that they say minus the second one they say. Okay, so let's subtract not negative, 0.10 cent x minus 20 cent. What does that give us? Negative 10 cent x, good job. And see how I don't have anything to combine with the 10? So I'm just gonna put plus 10, does that make sense? Okay, now if it was the other way around, it'd be a negative 10, okay, because I have to subtract, you know, and the negative came first. It would be 0 minus 10. So 0 minus 10 would have made that negative 10. So just be careful with that, okay? So which one of these is going, oh, sorry, plus 10. So which one of these is gonna be the answer here?
B.
Very good, it's gonna be B. Are you okay with it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so number 11, it says, what is the value of W? So that means you gotta solve for W in this equation, okay? So we're gonna solve for W. So, let's do, I'm gonna have to write this on a separate sheet because I write too big, okay? So I'm gonna write this on a separate sheet. You have 3 over 4 W plus 8 is equal to 1/3 W minus 7. Yeah, I have to write that on a separate sheet because that's too small for me. Okay, so remember distributive property comes first. There's no distributive property. Combining like terms comes second. I can't combine and I can't combine, okay? So now I'm gonna move the variables to the same side. It doesn't matter which one I move really, you know, it's not gonna matter. So I'm just gonna move this one over here. So I'm gonna subtract, yeah, this one's bigger anyway, because this is 0.75 and this is 0.33, you know, some change. So I'm gonna move the smaller one. I'm gonna leave my answers as fractions because that's easier to solve. So I'm definitely gonna use my calculator so I can keep it as a fraction and I don't have to do as much work. You ready? Okay. So when you type this, a fraction in calculator, you put it in parentheses. So we have 3 over 4, close parentheses, and we're subtracting the fraction 1 over 3, and we put that in parentheses. We want to keep it as a fraction, so we press the math button and we press enter twice. Do you see how we get that? So we got 5 over 12. You okay with it?
So the math button.
And hit enter 2 times. Math, enter, enter. Okay. So this is going to give us 5 over 12 W. Bring down the plus 8, bring down the equal. This is gone, and I'm left with minus 7. Are you okay with those? So now you're gonna get W by itself by getting rid of the 8 first, because this is directly attached by multiplication. So get rid of anything you can add or subtract first. So to get rid of a positive 8, what do you have to do?
Subtract 8.
You're gonna subtract 8 on both sides. Okay? So the 8 is gone, and we're left with 5 over 12 W. And on this side, what are we left with?
Negative 15.
-15. Good job. Okay. So now, in order to get rid of the fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. Do you remember what the reciprocal of 5 over 12 is? Reciprocal is when you flip the numerator and the denominator. So that is 12 over 5. So you're gonna multiply both sides by 12 over 5. Do you remember that now? Okay. So on the top, you're gonna get 60, bottom you get 60. 60 divided by 60 is 1. They cancel out anyway. So you're gonna be left with W here, okay? And then you can type this in. If you reduce that, just type it in, make sure you get it right. Don't even test it to see. I could tell you, but if you don't know at this point, don't test it to see it. Make sure you get it right if it's calculator active. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yeah, don't get these wrong. And press enter, and that gives you what?
Negative 36.
Yep, -36. Are you good? So what answer choice is -36?
4.
Very good, it's the fourth answer, okay? It's the fourth answer, all right? So now we're finding the slope. It says, what is the slope of the line that contains, and they give you 2 points. The 2 points they give you, oh God, I can't even see that, Jesus. -9, thank you. -9, comma 2, and what's the second point? 3, 14. Okay. So remember, when you're finding the slope, you use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you have to label, good job, you're doing it, x1, y1, x2, y2. And what did you put on the top?
12.
You put what first, what minus what?
14 minus 2.
Very good. And then on the bottom,
3 minus -9.
very good. So 4 minus 2, you were right, you get 12. And then on the bottom, what did you get?
Please follow this instruction, JAG Academy. It is time to switch. And also, there are snacks available outside of room 708. Again, it is time to switch. There are snacks available outside of room 708.
708, okay. So what does this give you here?
Since it's negative, you add 9.
Mm-hmm.
So that
It's,
would be 12.
yes. Minus a negative is plus a positive, and yes, it's 12. So what's 12 divided by 12? 1. So it's, yeah, it's the first answer. The answer is 1. Okay? Alright, so let's do this one, number 13. It says the table below shows the shoe size of 7 boys. Okay, so these are 7 boys right here. It says, what is the percent of boys? Okay, so what is the percent of boys ages is more than 1 year different from the age predicted by the line of best fit. Okay, so we have to do the line of best fit, so we have to type these in and figure out what the line of best fit is, y equals mx plus b. So again, go to stat and go to edit. Clear it out. And let's type in the numbers. Did you figure it out that fast?
No.
Okay, I was like, dang, it's like. When you have them typed, let me know. Oh, you did, okay, good. So we press stat, and where do we go after that? Calc, and what's after that? Mean rate. Does that make sense? Alright. Okay. And press enter. Alright, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty then. So this is, oops, we should have did lean. We gotta go back and do, because we gotta look at the table, okay? We need to look at that table. Alright, so we go stat again, calc. So it's second 1, comma, second 2, comma, don't forget the comma. You remember vars, then y vars, and then how many times do you press enter? 3 times. Okay, so now it's in your now you have values in the table because you don't need the values from the table, okay?
Is that an error?
Let me see your count, let me see what your error was. Did you put comma after each? Oh, you see, you forgot the comma here.
I forgot to put the
Yes.
comma after
Alright, you see how I'm going back to this line. I'm press second, delete, and now I can just insert a comma. And I'm good, okay? Alright, instead of having to do the whole thing over again, it's second and enter, okay? That'll take you back to the previous thing you typed. Alright, so now, look, I'm gonna have to, what they asking me for is, what's the percentage of people that are above a year from the predicted age? So we need to look at the line of best fit to see their predicted age. So go to the table, second table. These are the predicted ages, okay? So we need a year above, it says age is more than a year different. Oh, a year different, so it doesn't, is more than 1 year different. Okay, it's more than 1 year difference, okay. So let's look at the predicted age for a shoe size of 6. So we gotta go down to 6. What's the predicted age for a shoe size of 6? 10. Is this, since it's 10, that's a year under, isn't it?
Yeah.
So no for Tyrone. Does that make sense? All right, so what's the predicted age for 6 is 10, right? If this is 11, is that a year older? I mean, is that a year older? Yes, so,
It is,
no, it's not, is it?
cause it's 10.
Cause it's 10 point, yeah, so Marcel not either. Thank you for noticing that. What about Patrick? Is 7, right? Is that more than a year difference?
Mhm.
Yeah, so Patrick is 1. So far we got Patrick. So we got this one. 15 is 1. What's Dylan's? 8?
Wait, for Dylan or Bobby?
Bobby, sorry.
Bobby is 8. And his,
The predicted is 13.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's more than a year. All right, so what about Dylan? It's 14 is the predicted, but it's 14.2. 14.2, no, you're right, no Dylan. Okay, what about Mike? Is Mike more than a year? No, Mike is not. What about Jonathan? No, Jonathan. All right, so how many people out of how many people?
2,
It's 2 out of how many? How many people?
7.
So let's figure out what the percent, what's 2 out of 7? So let's find a decimal, change the decimal to a percent. So what's 2 divided by 7?
46.
So which answer choice is that gonna be?
B.
B, yep. Because it's 0.2928, so that's about 29%. Okay. All right, are you good? All right, 14. It says John left his home and walked. Oh, sorry. Thank you, baby, for telling me that. John left his home and walked 3 blocks to school. Okay, we gotta pick the graph that this means, right? 3 miles. Let's see. 3 blocks from school, as shown in the accompanied graph. What is the possible interpretation? Sorry, of the section of each of the graph at point B to point C. All right, so B to C. All right, so what's this interpretation from B to C? Okay, what's that interpretation? Is that John arrived at school and stayed throughout the day? Okay. John waited before crossing the busy street.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
He's not moving.
because he's not moving. You know what I'm saying? He's not moving at all. But it's not for like a whole day. You know what I mean? So this one's a better answer than this one because this line is a short line. And then John returned home to get his math book. No, he didn't return home. You know what I mean? Because this is a waiting period. He reached the top of the hill and began walking. That's not what it means either, because it's basically, you know, this is time waiting. So the best answer is going to be number 2. Good job on that. Any questions? All right, you got it. So you got the first one done. High five. Yes. Very proud of you.